Rob, Rick Pitino, hired to be the head coach of the St. John's men's basketball program. This is 6 years after he was fired by Louisville for a scandal. All right. I mean, it just is what it is. The FBI found out that they found him guilty in a bribery scandal, and that's just one of them. So he was fired by Louisville. Rob, it was kind of thought that, he's had a lot of chances. That was probably his last one. And then he got hired by Iona, did a good job there. They got into the tournament, even though they just got beat. And now Louisville hires him. And your panties are in a bunch about this.
They are, Chris. And I'm officially, I'm from Jamaica, Queens, right?
Yes.
Just like your wife.
Yes.
Jamaica, Queens. And that's the home of St. John's.
Yep.
Which was
right
when
there.
I lived on 169th Street in Jamaica, Chris. It was within walking distance, St. John's, from my co-op apartment. So I'm familiar with St. John's. I covered St. John's. And right here, right now, I'm officially renaming St. John's University to Shame John's. It is now Shame John's University. Really? St. John, Rick Pitino, I get it. He's from New York. I get it. He can coach basketball. But to turn your head from all that Rick Pitino has done, Chris, he has so much baggage, Spirit Airlines would charge him $5,000 to check the bags. Everywhere he went, there was scandal. There was a situation where call girls were coming into the basketball dorm, Chris.
Well, let me go over a few of the things you're alluding to, because again, it was a little while ago, so some of our listeners might not be aware. Okay, the Louisville situation was where a federal bribery investigation alleged that an executive from Adidas, which sponsored Louisville at the time, agreed to funnel $100,000 to the family of five-star recruit Brian Bowen in exchange for Bowen's signature with Louisville. Okay, Pitino was identified, Rob, in documents related to the investigation as a person who played a role in navigating the money to Bowen. He, of course, said he was ignorant of it. And did he eventually admit what he admitted something, but you can get to that in a minute. But then before that, what you're talking about is one of his assistants was hiring prostitutes and strippers to entertain recruits on official visits. And somehow Pitino, kind of got out of that, but the assistant
Chris
took the hit, Rob.
And Rick, but this guy was a grad assistant, Chris, making no money.
Right.
But he's paying for hookers and prostitutes to come on campus. Come on.
And you're not doing that without the head man knowing.
Come on.
First of all, to your point, you probably don't have the money.
You don't have the money.
Secondly, if you are doing that, think if you do that and the head coach has no idea. How you would be crazy.
Absolutely.
Because number one, he might not. You don't know if he's in agreement with that. You're not going to risk doing something like that without him knowing.
And how does that benefit him, Chris? That only benefits the head coach. It doesn't benefit him.
Right.
It doesn't even make sense. And then don't forget about the 2003, where the wife of an equipment manager there, Chris, at Louisville. His wife got sent to jail, was charged with extortion of Rick Pitino. You know why? Because she was trying to blackmail Rick Pitino back in 2003. The two had a relationship under the table of an Italian restaurant.
Right.
This woman became pregnant. Pitino paid $3,000 for her to have an abortion at the time, Chris. she was not married to the equipment manager at the time, but he also was paid an undisclosed amount of money to marry her. And the incident got even uglier when she accused Pitino of rape and all kinds of stuff and stated that Pitino lasted only 15 seconds and this whole mess. And here's the other part, Chris. Iona went out. I'm just reading what they.
I'm like, where did that come from?
That's in the story. But here's the other part. Iona gave him, Chris, they bent over backwards. People called in favors to get him the job out of Iona, right? Rick Pitino promised to keep his nose clean. He's not going anywhere. He just wants to coach again. As soon as things got good for him, he's out of there and leaving Iona in the lurch to get back to what he still wants, which is a big-time program, and St. John's is way bigger than Iona.
Right.
Shame on Iona for allowing this guy to use them. Shame on St. John's for going this route, Chris. Why? I get it. St. John's hasn't been anything. They weren't anything when Luke Carnesecca was the coach. They had 4 NBA players, including Mark Jackson and Chris Mullin and Walter Berry and Bill Wennington. Chris, I could go on and on and on, and they didn't win a championship. And they failed to make the tournament. I think Steve DeSager just said 3 times in the last 12 or 15 years, Chris.
Oh, yeah, they've been bad.
They're a bad franchise. I'm a bad program. Right. But to stoop to this because they're going for a name and Rick Pitino, who just should, if you're a parent, you got to wonder about this guy and his baggage. And if you're a university, you don't care about what he's done, Chris, for real?
Rob, I don't know if you saw Chris Rock's latest.
Yeah, I didn't see it. I heard so much, I can't wait.
Yeah, and he talked about Will Smith, the slap, and more stuff. But it was called selective outrage. And Rob, this is an example of selective outrage. And there has always been selective outrage in this country, and there is today. And one thing, Rob, that's always upset me about the college situation, particularly in football and basketball, is that remember when kids, that guy, Bruce Brown, Brian Brown, whatever his name was, that, he was shamed. Brian Bowen, the kid that was going to get the money, he never even really got a chance to further his basketball career. He was shamed, and for so long they've shamed the kids. Think about Michigan, the 5-5, Rob.
It's about the kids, as if
they're shamed, right? I mean, obviously those guys went on to have, they're fine as far as their careers, but I'm saying, is there any record of them at Michigan?
No.
Making the Final Four 2 years in a row? Now, they erased all of that. They want to shame the kids, but yet when a coach does this stuff, he gets job after job after job. And it's the same thing with the transferring. Now coaches are complaining about the portal and kids can leave and there's no continuity and it's not fair. But coaches do it all the time. And I'm going to say this, I'm going to be honest. I just think our country in general, there's a lack of character. Rob, let's just keep it real. You can go up to the highest political offices in our country and you see people with no character, people with scandals galore, both parties, Democrat, Republican, and they get away with it. And and this is an example, obviously, at a much lower level, but it's selective outrage. And people like to jump on the kids and jump on the young men, young athletes for not exhibiting character in certain situations. But you will hire a guy like this who obviously time after time after time has exhibited poor moral character.
No doubt. Shame Johns. Shame Johns University. That's what you've done. You've shamed your university by kneeling and bending because you think you're going to win an NCAA tournament, Chris, or some championship. That's what they care more about rather than setting an example for college-age kids to say, no, you can't just do anything, and we're not going to turn our heads to this. Shame on St. John's and those people for hiring Rick Pitino. And one other thing, Chris, real quick, tomorrow, you will not be arrested and in handcuffs and fingerprinted tomorrow, will you, in New York? Because they're getting ready? I just want to make sure.
No.
Okay.
Why?
I just hear a big name guy might be arrested tomorrow. I just want to make sure it's not you.
Everything's not funny.
That's what they say.
Quickly, Rob. I was talking to a guy that works in the NBA today, longtime executive, and he has a background in law, and he was saying that, in their training in law, there are several reasons you create laws, right? But one of them is to serve as a deterrent, okay? And we were talking about the John Moran situation, but Rob, that's the thing. Like a law or a punishment, I should say, is also supposed to serve as a deterrent. So when you do the type of things that Pitino has done and you get punished severely for it, it will deter,
other
presumably,
people, right?
Others from doing it. But when you get rewarded time after time, where's the deterrent?
There is no deterrent. There is none. You could do whatever you want. There'll be somebody there, Chris, who's going to reach back and pull you up. That's what they do for those guys. Rick Pitino's hands are dirty, and yet they still shook his hands and gave him a deal, Chris, that he didn't deserve. There are plenty other basketball Rick Pitino's in his 70s. Enough
He's
already.
70 years old. That's the other thing. Like
70.
First of all, he should be chilling. And the university, you're hiring a 70-year-old man. I'm sorry, how good is he going to be at 70?
Exactly.